Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Heute haben wir einen Podcast mit Tuğçe Aral und ich freue mich sehr darauf. Ich möchte Sie zunächst kurz vorstellen. Tuğçe war Austauschstudent 2013 und 2014 in Ungarn an der Universität Pécs und dann an der Syracuse Universität in den USA. Sie absolvierte einen Bachelor und einen Master of Arts in Psychologie und den Bachelor in der Türkei bei der Bahçeşehir Universität und den Master bei der Koç Universität. Danach, nach 2019, ab 2017 war sie Doktorandin, Teaching Fellow an der Universität Potsdam und graduierte 2024 mit einer Promotion über das Thema Socialization and Development of Racial Knowledge among Youth in Inequitable Societies, an Ecological Approach. Das wurde mit Summa Cum Laude bewertet. Herzlichen Glückwunsch. Und danach war sie Postdoc und bis jetzt auch noch Postdoc an der Universität Potsdam. Ist das in einem Graduiertenkolleg? Ja, okay, in einem Graduiertenkolleg. Soweit zu Tuğçe Aral. Wir werden den Podcast auf Englisch führen. Yeah, can I say, Tuğçe, nice to have you here. Your PhD work about socialization, development of racial knowledge among youth in inequitable societies. What was the reason that you took this topic as your research question? And what was the research question in detail?
Yes, thank you for having me today. I have explored a couple of research questions in my dissertation. So I first looked into how we are socializing youth about diversity, ethnicity, or culture, or discrimination in a diverse society, and also including Germany. I also wanted to understand how this type of socialization, what we call in the literature ethnic racial socialization, how this type of socialization, where does it happen, who socialize the youth, and in the end, what are the consequences of these socialization for youth identities, well-being, and their intergroup relations that they might have with their friends in diverse classrooms. So this is the research question a little bit, and also when we're talking about Germany, I have to clarify a little bit when we're discussing about ethnicity, culture, and racism. There has been, because of the historical reasons, there has been a little bit of silence about talking about diversity and differences, or people might have.
And what is your impression? I think you started with your research work in the USA, because USA has a lot of literature about diversity, and I think it's indeed also a rather diverse society.
Yeah.
What are the basic results of your research looking to USA, and what is the special difference to Germany?
Yeah, so that's why I think this work that I had been doing has a long history in the US. And in Germany, I was like especially interested in, okay, we know it so far from the US perspective, but we don't know much about the German perspective. How do parents, for example, talk about these issues with their children? So what we see in my research, I did interviews with people who have migration descent, specifically those who have Turkish, Kurdish, or Asian heritage. Yeah, so it has some personal relevance there as well. So I think what we see is that the conversations that are happening in the US and in Germany, they're somehow overlapping. Yeah, so of course, parents are transmitting their heritage culture to their children. They are also somehow preparing for them in a society that is that they might experience discrimination. But how do they prepare? It differs a little bit, because how diversity is taught in Germany is different than US, right? So when parents, for example, when they prepare their children for discrimination, they talk about more specific to religion, right? So okay, people might be treating you a little different because you have a different religion. But this wouldn't be talked much in the US because it's more like race-based. Like,
Yes.
yeah. But here there are different things, different characters that people create bias towards each other. So the parents are saying that to survive in this society, you have to integrate, because that's also what German society, this is the narrative of German society. So parents are also repeating that narrative, actually, that, hey, you need to integrate in the society. You need to learn German. You need to be careful also towards certain groups. So they also actually warn them about certain groups. But when it comes to which groups they're warning their children about, for example, when you look at the Turkish population, they warn them towards the German society, more like, hey, okay, there might be some German people, there might be. But when it comes to Kurdish people, which German society might actually homogenize them, like Turkish and Kurdish, they're mostly perceived Turkish, they are perceived Muslim. We wouldn't see a difference when we're looking from the majority society. But there's a difference, because Kurdish people, they actually prepare their youth for bias that might be coming from the Turkish community in Germany. So there are this like subtle differences as well, like because the populations are different in Germany. And we also asked, in my research, I also asked this youth, if you feel like you had been treated differently, who would you want to talk? Right? So I also asked them, would you want to tell your parents so then they can help you? And most of them, they say growing up, they just do not want to worry their parents, or they don't want to make it a big deal, because if they say something, maybe their parents will be reacting so much more bigger than they want, or they just don't want to feel awkward in the school. So they mostly want to actually talk to their peers, their friends, and they want to solve, and like they kind of also want to not solve the situations, but they want to have someone whom they can talk to. And they choose their other friends who might have experienced the same things, right? Not their white German friends, but their friends who might also experience discrimination.
Can you perhaps explain a little bit, if we think about a young person coming from a German origin or from a foreign origin, where are the most problematic issues? Is it perhaps the language problem, or is a cultural phenomenon, different customs, habits, or whatever? What kind of results did you realize in your research work?
So I have done also, so in my dissertation, I mostly focused on people of immigration descent, but in my other work, I have also looked in people of German heritage and how what they're talking about these issues, like how they have been socialized. And when I look at the people of German heritage, and there's mostly silence about diversity. So actually the people who grow up in German families, they want to talk about these things, and they want to also learn about these things. So they think actually that their parents are not enough prepared to tell them about things. So actually what's happening in the families families with German heritage, youth who grow up in diverse societies are socializing their parents about how to talk about diversity. So it happens actually the other way around, because they notice that their parents are not quite equipped with the language, for example. So they correct their parents if they say something that's used, like that's not super politically correct anymore, So I think what we see in the youth with German heritage, that they are looking for more information and more conversations about these topics.
And did you realize differences, perhaps, let's say, if we look to a southern German region or northern German region, or township or countryside, or what is when we have different majorities, perhaps, no? What can you tell me about these points?
Yeah, definitely. There's this diversity within Germany, where which part of Germany people had been raised. So we see definitely if people are living in more diverse cities like Berlin, or they feel more prepared and they feel more in ease because they were more they grow up within this diversity, but there are people who grow up in very small regions, and then the population was quite homogeneous. But I think there's also this interesting finding that we have is that if the German family has also some kind of disadvantage in society, they're so much more tolerant to the foreigners or for them. For example, if they're coming from more like working class, these people, they have actually more diverse friends because when you're working in more like working class jobs, actually it's more diverse. Or for example, there's one person whose families had been one of these displaced people after World War II. Even though they have German heritage, they have experienced displacement. So what we see that these families, they're actually more open to, for example, the refugees are coming here because they kind of feel like they relate to this displacement feeling. So there is the difference. We also had some people whose families grew up in East Germany or West Germany. So we wanted to understand were there like a little bit of difference. So we don't have like clear difference that we see there because we didn't have enough sample from the East German side. But there are still a little bit of differences that, of course, the diversity within the German society is affecting.
Personally, I have 7 grandchildren, and we have a grandson, 12 years old. He is living with his brother and mother and father in Rhineland-Pfalz. And there is a big chemical company, BASF, with a lot of Turkish-minded workers. And I think the boy is very open-minded. Some days he told me he was at school and he learned about Ramadan. And then he went to shops in his town and what kind of groceries he can buy when the evening came, the night, or what kind to eat. And he was very interested in that. Another topic, my oldest son, living in Berlin, told me that the female, the grandchild was with mother in a swimming area, and there were a lot of immigrants. And now actually we have here some problems with refugees in Germany, so-called problems, whatever. And there is aggressivity, between this group and the other group. But can you tell you about this, about more positive effects or negative, ending perhaps in aggressivity or hate?
So what I can say, that just like touching upon your grandson's experience, is that, so for example, in my studies, I also looked into schools, like what are the schools doing right now to make these relationships more positive. And so in Germany, schools, they handle diversity in different ways. Most of the time, teachers and schools, they prefer to use equal treatment. So, okay, we treat everyone equally. This is our philosophy, which is theoretically making sense. I mean, we all want everyone to be treated equally. But there's also another, which they can coexist, by the way, but another way of handling diversity is really making sure providing information about people's heritage and also the intercultural learning. So in my studies, I actually always find the consistent positive effects of heritage and intercultural learning in the schools for youth outcomes. Like they are more pro-social towards refugees, for example, if the schools are engaging in this heritage and intercultural learning. But when it comes to equal treatment, which is theoretically so nice, but it has always this like very inconsistent relations to the youth outcomes. So that's why sometimes good, sometimes not. We just need to still find out when it is.
It's not so easy. You are had been nominated for the Better World Award in 2024. And because of your very interesting works and results, what can you say about this relevance for society, about overcoming the possible deficits? What kind of recipes do you have, on a short term and more or less on a long term base. What can we do now? I think it's complex, but
I
you are the expert.
No, I think we are already slowly contributing and like transferring the results of my dissertation to society in some way, because I'm teaching at the University of Potsdam and I'm teaching to students who are becoming teachers in the primary schools or secondary schools. So I think what's really important for us to do using the results of the studies is that really preparing teachers in schools to be able to handle, engage in these conversations and learn what discrimination is, learn how to recognize and respond to those situations, but also how to create more cohesive classrooms that youth from childhood learn to form good relationships with people who are different than them. So I think we do.
And do you have an idea if then this kind of a well-educated teacher, as a young teacher, comes to school as a beginner, as a newcomer, and in that class, or the colleagues there at school are more or less old-fashioned? What can we do then?
Yes, this is exactly what we're discussing in my seminar. So, but this is exactly the things, because I think a lot of people are young in my classrooms and they're excited. They like to change the world. They like to change the classrooms, and they might. So we are practicing in the classroom, like how to resist to this resistance that's coming from the generation or people who are not willing to change. So, of course, this is like a long-term work. And of course, I'm definitely saying my students that if you're feeling alone with your effort in the school, there are always initiative outside. There are like non-governmental organizations who are really trying to provide workshops. So make sure also you can reach me out. I tell them, if you go to school, your teacher, and you were really struggling, reach me out and we can try to do something. So trying to remind them also that they're not alone fighting this fight.
At the end, do you see a chance to transfer your results, for instance, in Potsdam, to our Center of Teacher Research and Teacher Education, CELP?
I think CELP is doing also great work, and I had seen them there doing workshops for university lecturers as well, because I think these topics are not just the topic of the primary schools, but also at the university that lecturers should be prepared. So I think I'm already seeing that people are engaging with that. But on the other side, what I'm doing is also trying to communicate these results to broader society, to students, and to other researchers. So I actually have a podcast myself. So together with other 5 researchers, we created a podcast called Researching Diversity. And we're actually hosting social scientists who do great work. And then we're trying to create a bit more visibility of these topics that we are working on.
And we may not forget the institutions where the people for the kindergartens are educated.
Yes, so
because
I think
for the young children of let's say 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, I think so
before
far
going to school.
Yeah, so far I haven't done much work on the early childhood, which is very important because it's the time that a lot of the the research shows the prejudice that children have. It peaks when they're 7 years old. Yeah, and then it decreases and it gets a little bit stabilized. So developmentally, I have mostly worked with adolescents that they're 13, 14 years old or like older, but developmentally it's actually children recognize the differences so early at age, and then 7 years old they have like, okay, you're different, I am different, and they become, but then they get a little bit more like moderate because they notice that, okay, this is not how the world works. Or maybe they're socialized in a way that, hey, you cannot do this.
Okay, thank you very much. I see there's a lot to do for the future. And personally for you, what are your a researcher, scientist, I think. So what do you intend to do for your personal future?
Okay, so I think I'm still trying to survive in academia. Well, it's not an easy path, because we know. But yeah, I think my aim is still do research, do teaching. I really do enjoy being at the university and doing my research at the university. So I'm hoping, I'm already looking for positions and applying for them. So yeah, I'm hoping to become a prof. Hopefully. Big aims.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah.
I thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Thanks a lot.